Adventure Time lore can get pretty confusing, even before all the multiversal travel, so without further ado, here is every universe shown in Fionna Cake. Obviously spoilers. Starting with the first one we're shown, Fionna World. At first we all thought this alternate reality was nothing more than a fanfiction created by the Ice King, but eventually we find out it's an actual reality created by Prismo, who despite having the power to create entire realities, is not allowed to do so on his own. But you already know that Prismo wasn't going for all that, so instead of following the rules of his boss, he decided to make Fionna Cake's reality anyway, just separate from the rest of the Adventure Time multiverse. In order to hide it from other cosmic entities so Fionna World doesn't get clapped, Prismo chooses to hide it within Ice King's head, a place that's crazy and wonky enough for them to go undetected. And Fionna World becomes permanently altered in the Adventure Time series finale, Come Along With Me, where the Ice King is turned back into Simon and freed from the madness of the crown. But in return for becoming a normal human, Simon also loses his magic, which ultimately removes the magic from Fiona's world too. And we see this reflected within the very first episode of the series, Fiona Campbell, where now Fiona's in her 30s and she's got to work a 9 to 5 and I mean, honestly, it looks like removing Simon's mind from magic made Fionna World get a little too real, because now she's having an existential crisis. We also see this updated sense of realism reflected within the other characters from the Land of Ooh, because now Marceline's a brother, and Gary works in a bakery shop. They've even got their own fern, and because the Fionna World reality has been placed within Simon Petrikov's mind, everything in it is indirectly reflecting Simon's subconscious. Everything from Fiona's favorite TV show being Cheers, to there being a statue of Betty within the park, shows the direct influence that Simon is having on this reality, which is showcased even more when some of the Fionna World characters cross over into our next universe, the main one. Now, this is the main reality we follow during the timeline of events for the main Adventure Time series, and this is quite literally where everything in the story takes place. The planet Earth, Mars, the Land of Ooh, Lumpy Space, the Dead Worlds, and the Nightosphere all simultaneously exist within this space, and we see our characters from Fionna World first interact with it when Cake the cat unintentionally ends up traveling to this universe through a portal of ice cream caused by an accident committed by the former Ice King, Simon Petrikov, who ends up making a multiverse portal while trying to summon the manifestation of chaos and discord, his ex-wife Betty. But we'll get into that a little later. Fionna Campbell ends up traveling to this world through one of these portals too, and upon her arriving there, we get a quick glimpse at the difference in the laws of physics between their two realities. Since we all know that Finn is super strong and OP, but Fiona's still a regular human in this world, and this quickly begins to prove a problem, as upon interacting physically with anything from the Land of Ooh, both Fionna and Cake unintentionally remove the magic from it, which for most of Ooh's creatures is the death sentence. We then begin to learn more about this problem when Fionna and Cake are teleported to Prismo's room in a separate dimension known as the Time Room, a single dimension cube that only exists outside of the flow of space and time. And it's also the home of this old guy named Prismo the Wishmaster, a manifestation of a dream who is capable of granting any wish. Originally we thought the only way to access this dimension was through the use of the Enchiridion after obtaining all the different gems of power, as this is what the Lich ended up tricking Finn's dumbass into doing after literally stealing the body of his #1 hero Billy. But don't worry, we'll get to all that soon enough. Prismo also spends pretty much all of his time watching every different reality on TV and creating different ones based upon the wishes people ask for. But after giving Fionna, Cake, and Simon a little tour of the Time Core and explaining to them the functionality of the Adventure Time multiverse, Prismo then reveals to our main characters that there is many more additions to the Adventure Time multiverse than many of us could have ever even thought. Starting off with this universe with these weird ass shapes, one where Finn and Jake are these weird upright animal creatures, and get this, we even see the universe from the misadventures of Flapjack, proving that this extremely creepy Cartoon Network series about Flapjack, Knuckles, and Bubby finding Candy Island is somehow part of the Adventure Time cosmology. And according to Prismo, this universe existed without the need of a wish for it, implying that Flapjack's existence predates his own. But Fionna World was created by Prismo, and it exists outside of the rest of the Adventure Time mythos entirely, which is a total violation of the rules that ends up really taking off the scare, who then ends up chasing Fionna, Cake, and Simon into the next alternate reality they visit, Farm World. Now let's go back a little bit. Farm World is an alternate reality created by a wish made by our timeline's Finn in the episode Finn the Human, as a response to the Lich's wish to end all existence. In order to try to prevent this, Finn wished that instead it was the Lich who had never came to exist, and ends up being teleported into a timeline where the mushroom bomb had never detonated and instead was frozen by Simon. This then leads to there never being any nuclear fallout to create the Land of Ooh, but Simon also accidentally freezes over the world for a couple years in the process, leading to them never really developing toilets. Then this world's Finn's dad and his pet mule are about to get clapped by the Destiny Gang, so in order to protect them, Farm World Finn wears the ice crown. Keep in mind Marceline also exists in this timeline, but she never became a vampire, and she's gotten pretty old. Anyways, Icefin accidentally detonates the mushroom bomb and awakens the Lich anyway, causing Jake to become the Lich for a little while, and Farm World Marceline to get melted. Then Farm World got pretty messed up for a little while, with Icefin going around the entire planet and freezing quite literally everything, with the Lich finessing Finn into collecting all the gems of power, along with the Farm World reality's Enchiridion, to open up another multiverse portal. But Finn and Jake stop all that, or do they? And the two of them have Prismo edit the Farm World timeline, so that technically Farm World Finn never found the crown, but he keeps all the trauma and memory. But so do the other Farm World inhabitants, who are pretty traumatized by it, you know, having been frozen and all. So in order to capitalize off of that, the Destiny gang claimed credit for the disappearance of the Iceman and become the most prominent power in the Farm World universe. Then we fast forward a couple years and we see Farm World Finn is now a badass Kratos type, enjoying the farm life and now raising his 4 children, who he presumably had with this reality's version of Huntress Wizard. And while this version of Finn may be tormented by his tragic and traumatic past, he definitely is incredibly cool. On Fiona and Cake's arrival, we learn that magic is not something that can be talked about anymore because of the Iceman, and that Farm World Finn's son Jake has been getting it on in private with the Destiny's child Little D. Then Fiona and Cake end up getting Farm World Finn one-shot by the Scarab, and despite the fact that we see both Jake Jr. and Little D move from Farm World to Fiona World in the season finale, that is pretty much all the knowledge we have on the status of the Farm World universe at this point. But the reality-destroying energy Fiona and Cake are giving off does not end there, as we are given an even darker glimpse into it through their next visited universe, Winter World. This is where the trend of the universe progressively getting darker can definitely be seen, as here we see a version of our beloved character Simon Petrikov turned into a big dingus named Winter King. This is the version of the Ice King who used a spell to transfer the madness of the crown from himself onto Princess Bubblegum, thus creating an extremely badass, insane version of Simon, who still maintained all the power despite losing the madness of the crown, and turned Princess Bubblegum into the Candy Queen. In this reality, we see the Winter King replace Marceline with an artificial one, who still has her family axe, implying that something has happened to her. The state of this universe is permanently altered forever when Fiona and Cake brutalize all of the Candy Kingdom citizens, and Fiona accidentally removes the magic from the Winter King's crown, thus destroying the crown and murdering the Winter King, also in turn ending the existence of all the ice elemental creatures in the kingdom, including that Ice Marceline. This leaves a giant lake in place of where the Ice Kingdom once was, but at least they changed Princess Bubblegum back to normal before leaving. And if you thought that was dark, then you certainly are not ready for what you're about to see in the next universe, Vampire World. Now, Vampire World plays out pretty much the same way as the rest of the universe, except for in this timeline, Marcy does not get to be raised by Simon, because in this universe, Simon actually ends up getting unalived by one of the vampires when they appear, before he can actually get to Marcy. And Marcy is instead raised by the Vampire King, who also has the powers of the Ice Crown, and uses the crown to create darkness clouds to prevent the sunlight from reaching them. And in this reality, the Vampire King also ends up raising Marcy in Simon's place, which leads to her being evil, coming to be known as the Star. We also meet this reality's version of the Huntress Wizard and Martin Mertens, as well as Peppermint Butler and Princess Bubblegum, who are now part of an anti-vampire coalition trying to hunt all the remaining ones down, because this world is also running out of food and resources. They create a plan that ends up getting partly soiled by Fiona and Cake, and then Fiona, Cake, and Simon just nope out of that universe entirely. Also, they leave a baby Finn there, who happens to be from another universe that I forgot to mention earlier, Baby World. And in this reality, all of our Adventure Time characters are babies, including the Lich. It looks like this entire reality is just one giant daycare, but it certainly is the most adorable. I wonder what the baby Lich is capable of, cause it definitely can't be half as bad as the Lich from our next reality, the Dead World, that was created all the way back at the end of season 4 of the first Adventure Time series, when the Lich tricked Finn and Jake into helping him get to Prismo's room and wished for the extinction of all life. And here we find out that Lich was indeed teleported to his own reality, where he had successfully achieved his goal of seeing the end of all existence. And here we see the entire land of Ua as a dry and barren wasteland, devoid of any and all types of life, aside from Bimo, cause he's just a robot. And yes, this universe is as depressing as it sounds. You see, the Lich thought that as the last scholar of GOLB, there would be some grand reward waiting for him at the end of his achievement, and we would soon find out that couldn't be any further from the truth once our characters arrive in GOLB's dimension. Now, GOLB's reality exists somewhere within the void of nothingness, and this is where Betty GOLB banished itself at the end of the series finale. And here we see GOLB Betty surrounded by a bunch of giant floating green blocks, which I'll explain in their own video. And despite being within a realm of nothingness, GOLB Betty's dimension can still connect directly to the rest of the Adventure Time multiverse through this random scrapyard of floating rocks scattered across it. Each one of these rocks turns out to be another alternate reality. And of the new ones shown here, we see one with a bunch of tiny bears, one dimension that looks like the Lorax, one universe from that really creepily animated episode, a Jake verse where everything is Jake, and even one universe that still has the prehistoric version of the land kind of ooh. And that is every universe shown in Fiona and Cake, in the first season at least. If there's any that I missed, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Also, feel free to let me know what universes we didn't see that you would like to in the show's next season. Thank you for watching the whole video. Subscribing would mean the world to me. I love you, I appreciate you. Sun God signing off.
I come in clutch like a genie. Don't talk.